he was offered the role to come and build out the client services team with Hoxton. Unfortunately, he wanted me to come with him. So it's not easy to move, 150, 200 policies across to a different company, a different license. So that was a pretty intense 6 months.
You were a pro golfer, weren't you?
Yeah, I was.
We've got quite a few golfers in the business. So who do you think is the best golfer at Hoxton Wealth right now?
I'm a bit biased because he's one of my best mates.
Kind of underestimating managing the administration team. How many people are you managing at the moment?
It's around 40, I think. So, yeah.
Your career has accelerated very, very quickly.
Yeah, I owe most of it to Jacob and Charlie. Look, when I first came to the UAE, when I was working in Abu Dhabi Golf Club, it was a stark difference from living at home with mum and dad, and would argue that we've got one of the best teams in the industry, not just in the international space, but everywhere.
So Louis, thanks so much for joining us today on the Hoxton Life podcast. How are you?
Very well, thanks, Sam. How are you?
I'm very good.
Good.
I've had a really busy morning, actually, like I just said to you. I've literally haven't stopped talking all morning, whether that's some kind of, preparation for the day of 7 podcast recordings back to back. I don't know. That's going to be a record. It was 8, but someone cancelled, and I'm kind of thankful that they cancelled.
Well, you've got an hour to step away and reset now, I guess, haven't you?
Have some dinner, get a few coffees down.
Exactly.
I just hope I don't lose momentum. It's kind of like chasing the dragon a little bit. You've got to keep on going with this. Otherwise, your energy levels just dip.
Yep, you're right.
But that's the Hoxton way, isn't it? The Hoxton bus, the high energy, growth mindset, pushing forward constantly. One of the reasons why I actually joined and what attracted me to the business. Just let's start at the beginning with you. What attracted you to join Hoxton? When was it? How did you get into to Hoxton, Capital at the time, now Hoxton Wealth?
Yeah, it was. I've been with Hoxton for just over 3 years. I joined actually at the same time as Jacob. We'd been working together for probably a couple of years at a different firm up the road. I was his paraplanner, so spent most of my time kind of managing his clients in the background, making sure that we were servicing them correctly, making sure that they got enough face time with him, whilst he was out there meeting and networking new people to, see who he could help, locally mainly. Jake and Chris had been friends and in talks for quite a while, I think, and he was offered the role to come and build out the client services team with Hoxton. Unfortunately, he wanted me to come with him, so we came together. Our kind of first steps when we came across were migrating all of his clients under Hoxton's licenses, which was particularly challenging. It's not easy to move 150, 200 policies across to a different company, a different license. So that was a pretty intense 6 months. Back then, there wasn't kind of too much of a process around it, really. So we spent a lot of time trying to find out how to do it and what the best ways were, and learning from some mistakes, for sure. So that was the start. We focused on bringing all of Jake's long-term clients across with us so that we could still service them. And then we cracked on building out the client services team after that. So
fantastic, which kind of explains how you then got into more of an operational role, which we'll get onto in a minute. So working with Jacob before you actually came to Hoxton, how long were you working together?
Probably the best part of 2 years. We'd been friends for a lot longer than that. So I've been in the UAE for 10 years, originally working in golf at Abu Dhabi Golf Club. So Jake had kind of built and managed a huge golf society, upwards of 200 members, and he'd have weekly events, monthly events, all sorts. But he wanted his weekly events to be at Abu Dhabi Golf Club where we were. At the time, I was the events coordinator, so, naturally had to work very closely with him. And we became good friends. We played golf together. We went out for dinner together. I met his kids. And when I decided to leave the golf club, bit of a side story, but it was Jake that said, "Hey, I want you to come and work with me, mate. I think that we gel well together, and I think that you could help me out quite a lot." So we did.
Brilliant. So that was your first foray into financial services, was supporting Jacob around power planning and moving into that power planning, administrative support, holding everything together for Jacob. Fantastic. So you did that for a couple of years. that golf society was pretty impressive, actually, because Jacob told me about that. He was literally playing golf every single day out here with clients and developing new client relationships. Now, what an awesome way to do networking if you also enjoy golf. You were a pro golfer, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. That in the industry, there's two types. There's a golf professional and a professional golfer. Professional golfers are out there playing in events, trying to earn a living out of prize money, which is extremely tough, almost impossible, I would say. But I was a golf professional, which meant, I was kind of working in the industry, working in the operations team, managing the tee sheet, cleaning the buggies, stacking the pyramids of golf balls on the driving range. Literally kind of did it all, really, which was good. I learned a lot.
We've got quite a few golfers in the business. So who do you think is the best golfer at Hoxton Wealth right now?
I'm a bit biased because he's one of my best mates. But we've recently onboarded Joe Herity as business analyst. So he sits in the operations team with me. He spent the last 4 or 5 years on the Asian Development Tour. He's a professional golfer, a proper golfer. But yeah, apart from him, I'd like to say I'm probably a close second or third.
Fair play to you. Humble and not modest at all.
No.
So recently we had a bit of a golf tournament, didn't we, at Hoxton? Just tell us a little bit about that.
So the Saudi Aramco, obviously a huge player in the oil and gas market. They have their own compound in Dammam in Saudi, which is where they call them the Aramcons. They live and work there. That's, their villas, their apartments are there, their factories, their offices are all there. And they have a golf course called Rolling Hills, which has been dug out of the desert and operational for over 70 years, I think, which is crazy. It's a private members course. Nobody's allowed there. But every year they hold an Oilman's golf tournament. And through a mutual client of Chris, they gave us the opportunity to go over there and be a sponsor and field a couple of teams. So it was really interesting, to go and see what it's actually like and network with some guys over there and talk about golf and obviously talk about the finances too. But no, it's really interesting. Enjoyed it.
It's really fun, isn't it? The ability to be able to network out here when you are in an international financial planning business, you kind of take it for granted. Just popped over to Saudi Arabia into the desert, played some golf, but no, people in the UK don't do that. And I think it's one of those things that you kind of can take for granted when you're working for an international financial planning company. Do you do much work with Saudi clients then? Do you?
I mean, there's lots of opportunities for work over there. So naturally, a lot of expats choose to go and build a career or, even spend 3 or 4 years there, right? And due to the nature of Saudi as a country, it's pretty difficult to spend money over there. So it's really easy to go over and work hard and save some cash. So.
I want to go over to Saudi Arabia at Christmas because you got Tyson Fury versus Usyk, and Valeria, our photographer over there, she went last year to it and was taking photos in the Usyk camp. So I'm going to be tapping her up for some tickets, hopefully, Valeria. I'm sure you're going to provide me with some. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to going to Saudi Arabia. Oman as well, very keen to get over there and explore the UAE in general. I think there's a lot to do here. There's a lot to see. So you moved over here from the other financial planning company with Jacob. Jacob came on board. He's running his team. He's running his clients. He's giving advice. You've come on as a power planner support, but you gradually now moved yourself into a completely and utterly different position as Hoxton Wealth has grown exponentially. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing right now.
So I'm now kind of managing the operations team. You can kind of think of us as the support in the background. The administration team also kind of falls under my remit, but basically what we do is kind of sit back and analyze what's happening in the business in all areas, not just sales, not just tech, it's everything. And we sit back and find out where perhaps we're lagging behind, where there are opportunities for us. If there's some processes that are sticky, then we'll go in and investigate and find out how we can improve it. So I said to you the other day, it's kind of like being the glue that brings everything together. So a general overview of everything that's going on, making sure that nobody's stepping on anyone's toes, but also kind of quite heavily involved this year with the acquisitions in the UK. So integrating lots of clients, lots of accounts into our systems, making sure that we've got the resources to manage and service, an increasing number of clients, really. So,
kind of underestimating managing the administration team. How many people are you managing at the moment?
It's around 40, I think. So, yeah. Yeah.
So going from working directly with Jacob to all of a sudden now your career has really pushed forward. You're managing 40 people. You're overseeing operations within the business. The business isn't a slow business. It's fast moving. It's growing all the time. Lots of acquisitions going on, transferring those clients across. So that early experience of you moving Jacob's clients, 150,
yep.
How many are we talking about now moving across into?
We've probably do around nearly 2,000 this year,
Wow.
I'd say.
Yeah. So you're overseeing that with others within the team, whether it's administrators. And of course, Charlie's probably quite involved in that element of the business as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Charlie's, he's the oracle with all the knowledge. He needs to be consulted every step that we make. And I'm trying to build myself into a position where he doesn't need to be consulted every time. But yeah, his guidance on kind of the wider picture of stuff is super valuable.
You mentioned like the glue that holds it together. Okay. Operations to me is hugely important, without a shadow of a doubt. Let's just go over some of the things that, what is the glue that holds the business together, and what is it you're actually doing on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis?
Okay, so apart from kind of the analysis of what's going on, we'll build reports, we'll define parameters, data points to try and track where things are in the process, what's in the pipeline, what's due to issue and complete, for example. It's all well and good us signing up a client and saying we're going to, move your money into this particular product that's really good for you. If it takes 6 months for that to happen, then that's not fair on the client, right? We want things to happen quickly. So that's kind of a general project that we're working on at the moment. I'd say on a day-to-day basis, a lot of what I do is managing relationships and communication between different teams. The sales team, the administrators, that's a very key relationship. The admins are the one that focus on crossing the T's and dotting the I's. That needs to be correct. And the advisors need to, be able to explain correctly and accurately what they actually want to happen. And due to the diversity of the teams that we work with, that's not always as simple as it sounds. So kind of like a translator, if you like, in between teams. Tech is, a massive area of development for us at the moment. If we're pushing in a certain direction with the Hoxton Wealth app or with Wealth Flow, we need to make sure that everything in the background is set up and working correctly. We want to make sure that people are being communicated the changes that we're making. And then regulators as well. So obviously, Paul Tate's the head of 6 regulated jurisdictions, which is mental. But making sure that the information from him filters out to the right people, that's super important. We don't want to lag behind and make any mistakes. So.
I think, where I've spoken to operational, administrative, power planners, those typical types of role in the UK, they do struggle quite a lot with the product providers and the time it takes to get things done. We're talking about 6 different, multi-jurisdiction here, international business. How difficult is it to deal with all those different types of product providers? Do you find it challenging? How many are you having to deal with?
Yeah, there are loads, but you can kind of break it out into 2 sections. So for new business, new accounts, we probably deal with kind of between 7 and 8 main providers. So actually dealing with them is pretty straightforward. There are people like myself, Charlie, and Jacob in place to maintain those relationships. Make sure that we're doing the right things for them, and then in turn, if we need assistance from them, they'll give it back to us. So particularly in the Middle East, we've got super good relationships with our providers. If we look at servicing, then there's probably upwards of 50 or 60 different companies that we have clients and policies with. So that's a little bit more challenging. But at the same time, it's necessary. So we just have to find a way to get it done, right? It's lots of different rules, lots of different, sets of paperwork, for example, lots of different email addresses and inboxes. So I can pretty much rely on the team leaders that are under me to know the details, and then they help manage the finer stuff, and I kind of oversee and make sure that we're doing the right things for the right people. So
your career has accelerated very, very quickly. When it comes to pushing forward in your career, especially within a business that's basically like a startup mentality, you've been here really halfway through a startup business. Leaning into those within the business that are knowledgeable, experienced, who would you consider to be the people within the business that have mentored you, trained you, guided you, and supported you, both personally and professionally, during your, transformative career journey here at Hoxton Wealth?
Yeah, I mean, I owe most of it to Jacob and Charlie. They're two completely kind of different angles, two different personalities, but the way that they work together, I can kind of learn from both of them as we chat about different things. Jake, from a kind of relationship perspective, he's a people person, right? So if I need to tell people something that they're not going to like, I'll use Jake to make sure that I'm telling them the right way and picking the right angles. And then from a much more kind of pragmatic point of view, Charlie we're running a business here. This needs to happen. This is the way we're going to do it. I trust you, go away. Use me if you need me. And just through working, on a day-to-day basis with these two guys is just constant learning and exposure. Like you said, it's a startup and everyone's growing, and the fact that Charlie and Chris are still, Charlie and Jake and Chris, of course, are pulling me up with them that's a super nice feeling.
It's one of the things I've noticed there. There's a great leadership team there. There's a lot of growth mindset being led from the front. There is leadership going on. There is drive and ambition to push forward and become the best international financial planning business in the world. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to join, was the opportunity. And from the outside looking in, it looks like we're pushing forward, looks like we're growing. From the inside, it is 100% that type of environment, and the type of people I think really that fit Hoxton Wealth are those people with that growth mindset in place and understand that it's not a kind of sleepy financial planning company, in the back end of Surrey somewhere. This is a forward-thinking, international financial planning business. Just yesterday, I was talking to people about America and what we're doing in America and how we're going to grow out there and what the opportunity is out there. In another breath, I've got an interview next week with someone who wants to potentially come across over to Hoxton. They've got nearly $500 million, but they want to push into India. Really exciting conversations with people that are seeing what we're doing as an environment where they can come in and upskill, but also push their own businesses forward, maybe push their careers forward as well.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. There's, it's a hard balance between coming in and just working 12, 13, 14 hours a day. Like, that's not what we expect of people, but we're not expecting people to come across and park their business and just kind of sit on it and mull about, right? Like, everyone, particularly in the office here in Dubai, like, everyone's driving forwards. We're all coming in and trying to find new creative ways of doing stuff. There's a big focus on activity, making sure that we're not just sitting there doing nothing. Everyone's busy. And that's the way we like it. And, we hope to find a lot more people that feel the same way. 100%.
But with all that growth happening, you need a strong and knowledgeable administrative team.
Yeah.
Because it does become the glue that holds the business together. Sometimes I kind of consider the administrator within a financial planning business to be like the unsung hero. They're not spoken about as much as they actually should. And through my own podcast, The Financial Planner Life, I've always brought administrators on, power planners and operations, because it's more to a financial planning business than meets the eye. It's not just about the advisor, which is what it's always historically been. It's always been about advisor. I'm the one pushing forward. Yes, you're going out there. Yes, you're generating business, but it can't be done unless there is is a system in place, unless there is an operation in place that can support that individual. Otherwise, it slows them down. It causes problems, doesn't it? You know, your views and your opinions around your administrative team. You've got a very, very diverse business. You know, when I come over there, it's like I've walked into some kind of multicultural little village or something. You know, it's so completely multicultural and very diverse. You've got men in there, you've got women in there, you've got people from Europe, people from the Philippines in there. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is mad, but you know, I'm super proud of the team that we've got. You know, I would argue that we've got one of the best teams in the industry. You know, not just in the international space, but everywhere. There's 40 people who are all at different stages in their careers. They all kind of work together as a team, and there is that mentality, you know, that mutual respect between everyone, that we're all in the same boat, we're all doing the same job, we're all expected to do the same things. There are a lot of high pressure situations that we're in, and you know, particularly the team that I work with, how they manage to keep going and keep smiling and be joyful is, you know, it's honourable. You know, so for me, it's not particularly difficult to manage them. You know, I'm quite lucky that they do get on with each other, and we do communicate clearly with each other. You know, no one's left in the dark. Everyone receives the same training. If anything's updated, everybody's aware. You know, we share a lot of happy memories with each other in the office, actually.
Make a lot of friends in there?
Yeah, 100%. I'm probably guilty, actually, of spending a bit too much time out of the office with them, you know, because they're just great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've kind of engrossed yourself very much so also in the Filipino community. It's a community that you enjoy spending a lot of time with. And, you know, what have you learned from the Filipino community? Because we always learn from different people, different cultures, don't we?
Look, when I first came to the UAE, when I was working in Abu Dhabi Golf Club, it was a stark difference from, you know, living at home with mum and dad, and everything's kind of there and available. We lived in a shared apartment block. My first apartment was a 3-bedroom, and there was probably like 12 of us, I would say. You know, we were in a room of 4 people each, and most of the guys that I lived with were from the Philippines. So I spent every day working with them. We got the bus together to work at 4 a.m. and got the bus home at midnight sometimes. And we didn't have a lot. You know, salary was nothing really. But if one of us did have something, then we'd go out and we'd buy some food and we'd buy a couple of bottles of drink, and we'd get together in the evenings and have a great time together in the lounge. You know, it was, they properly kind of let me in to it. And it didn't matter how hard it was, or the fact we'd spent 9 hours working outside in 50 degrees. Like, they were happy. We got home and we chatted about it and had a laugh about it, and we got up the next day and went and did it again. So, you know, they kept me going. They did.
Fantastic. What are you excited about with Hoxton at the moment? You know, the future seems very bright. I know that I'm very motivated to be here, and I look forward to definitely the next 5 years of pushing forward with this business and meeting those ambitious targets of 5 billion by 2027. Mm-hmm. So, you know, what are you most excited about on both on a personal level in a career development phase, but also what we're doing in the industry, what we're doing in the profession?
I think personally, I'm just excited to keep going and learning more and becoming a more kind of rounded professional, really. There are, you know, I'm pretty good at most things, I would like to say, but there are certain aspects of business in general that need work. And I'm looking forward to working with the likes of Charlie, Jake and Chris to make sure that, you know, I fill in those gaps and become even better, right? You know, I want to replace Charlie, and I want him to be doing something else. And at the same time, I'm excited to bring people that are underneath me up, you know, together as well. Yeah. I mean, you sit there and there's 40 people, and I can pick out 5 or 6 now that I know would make great team leaders, or, you know, project managers, business analysts. I want to make sure that they've got the tools to support me underneath as I go up as well.
Brilliant. Well, from my perspective, and I think from anybody who's listening to this business, whether it's this podcast, if they were interested in coming into Hoxton Wealth, either as a financial advisor, or maybe they're interested in coming into the operational side of things, whether it's administration, power planning or compliance, to know that there is a strong operational team working together cohesively to try to reduce the time it takes to do things. You know, we're working on this whole app situation with a one-day client at the moment as well, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, how we integrate the app into the client experience so a client doesn't have to sit on their hands for too long. If they want to invest some money, they can do it in one day. And I mean, we're under a year away from actually making that achievable for our clients. But in the same time, whilst these things are being built to be efficient for clients, there has to be efficient for the business. There has to be ways for us to do what we need to do quicker, faster, easier, and access that information just as much as the client wants to access it. So from my perspective, the more I get the luxury of digging quite deep into different things within the business and asking lots of questions of people. Of course I do, because I'm on a podcast, but I get to do these exploratory chats, and I'm always looking at ways to kind of turn stones over and find out how things can be done slightly differently. The one thing I do know is that people are open to improvement and making the process faster, quicker, slicker for everybody involved. And if I was a financial advisor, for instance, the thing in the back of my mind is, how can I take my business from 40 million to 80 or to 100? And ultimately that comes down to the environment you're in, the processes that are in place, the technology that's in place, and the support and the operations. Are they evolving? Is it growing?
Yeah.
Is it getting slicker and better? And from my perspective, it is. And the more I talk to you, the more I talk to the team, the more I see that it is. So it is exciting. Everyone working together in the right way, aren't they?
Exactly. We just want to be in a position to give, advisors the tools that they need to go off and build their own business as quickly and easy as possible.
Spot on. Hey, Louis, thanks for joining us on the Hoxton Life podcast today and just give us an insight, into what it's like to be the operational manager here at Hoxton Wealth. So thank you so much for that. Really pleased to be working with you and seeing all the amazing work that you're doing. And thank you for the support you gave me, because when I came into the business, I was spinning two businesses, multiple plates, and my organisation skills were lacking. And you took the time out just each week to hold me accountable, and I'm still doing that. So I really, really appreciate your patience and your support and just listening to me, just helping guide me to be a better organised individual, because it's worked. Thanks so much, buddy.
Pleasure.